Hey guys, Shelrith here with another exciting day of Fire Emblem Heroes. So today we're going to be doing our last segment of the Keep or Send Home. So let's go ahead and dive into the Colorless. There's some interesting heroes here, and there's also some heroes that are not so good. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the first one we're going to go over is Niles. So Niles has a pretty interesting kit. He's got pretty high resistance, um, but a very low weapon might and low attack overall. He does get the boost damage dealt by the unit's resistance by 50%. Um, so he is good against mages. Does get an AoE resistance buff and then +6 resistance when initiating the combat. So if he is using his skill, this will pretty much give him another 3 more damage when he's attacking. Uh, I think it's pretty good. He's going to get this pretty much every other turn just because of this reduce cooldown. But I do just think there's better archers. In the same league as Takumi and Jeorge, you're really going to have a tough time competing, and I just don't think Niles is going to really hold up. He does have an interesting kit, but I just don't think he's going to hold up as much as the other archers. For the main part, ranged heroes, you want to be doing as much damage as possible, and you really, if you're taking hits, you're probably going to die either in one hit or two hits. So having a lot of resistance is beneficial if you do get hit, but I'd rather actually have more attack and just kill things outright. Alright. Setsuna. Setsuna is really interesting because she's good against flyers, dagger users, and other bow users. So she has a lot of good advantages against a lot of different types. Um, so she does get a little bit tanky with this +5 HP. Um, her attack is pretty low, and then also a little bit low on the weapon might, but she does have pretty good height, pretty good speed, and then could be average defense and resistance. Um, Again, speed and attack is really what you want to be paying attention to. And speed is actually even useful in defensive because the higher your speed, the less likely you are to get double attacked. Um, so I think she's worth keeping. We'll see how the meta starts to shape up and see if she has some use in PvP. But like I said, she just has a lot of uses good against flyers, dagger users, and bow users. So in PvE, I think she'll also have some good use, just being an overall effective unit. So she's a keep. Takumi, this guy is definitely a keep. Um, Average speed, but really what makes him great is he gets the enabled the counterattack regardless of distance. This makes him really good. Um, and then also he gets -5 speed on any adjacent enemies at the start of each turn. Um, this isn't really going to be taking too much effect because again, the whole point is you want to make sure that you can kill an enemy in one shot. You don't want to send your range user because a lot of times they're going to have this low resistance, low defense. His defense is like average, but resistance he's going to get one shot by mages. So you just don't want to send your bow user in there without being able to take him out. So again, these debuffs do have some use, especially because it's the start of each turn. So this is going to help him a little bit more defensively, because if he starts next to anyone within 2 spaces, they're going to have a lower speed. It's a higher chance for him to not get double attacked. He has a pretty average speed. If you get the 36, he won't get double attacked except I think by 8 or 9 heroes there are that'll double attack him, depending on how the natures roll out. And then his skill, he will get to use this. But again, if he's not really suffering any damage, I don't think it's going to grant too much of a bonus. He's overall a really great archer. So he's definitely a keep. Alright, Virion. So Virion is the starter archer. I don't think he's good. I would say that to send him home. Again, if you're attacking someone and they have the -7 speed with the archers, you want them to be dead. So debuffing them is really not going to be too helpful. And then also, a lot of times you're going to get one shot. His resistance is terrible. 1, 2, or 3. At 5-star, it's probably 2, 3, or 4. That's just bad. He's going to get one shot by every single mage ever. So he's never going to get to ever see any use out of this. Send him home and let's be done with it. Alright, Gordin. So Gordin is actually very interesting because I'm pretty sure that he is the only archer currently in the game with Brave Bow. So he gets to attack twice. Still gets that effective versus flying units, which is very, very powerful. Because it's helped shape the meta, because Camilla and Cordelia and Katria have all seen, I think, less play because of the archers and their effectiveness against flying units. He does have shove, which can be useful, but what's really interesting is, so his bow is a little bit weaker, 7 might. Most brave swords are usually at 8 might, but he gets this +3 attack, and so this is gonna help even out this damage by the end of it. And then also gets this counterattacks first when his life is below 75%. Again, combining this double attack with his attack boost, he should be able to one-shot most units. His resistance again is just horrible, truly horrible. He's gonna be one-shot by most mages. And then he has decent defense. So again, if he's able to take any damage, because really 25%, the first time he gets attacked, he's gonna get below 75% life. If he does happen to survive, this is really gonna help him out. This is the same skill as Lynn, and you know that when Lynn gets below 50% life, she becomes a total monster. Her skill is she has 2 skills that combo together to make that happen, but at least he has this where he'll counterattack first. So that'll help him just deal out some more damage and hopefully kill the unit that's attacking him, that's trying to finish him off. I think he's a keep. I've actually made one a 4-star, and he's been an amazing unit. He takes out. He's been a heavy damage dealer, and this is batting with Cain and or not with Cain. I'm sorry, with Camilla and with 5-star Robin. He's definitely a very underrated character and actually very powerful. All right, Jeorge. So Jeorge is another one of the 5-stars that I have. Jeorge is really good. I'd say he's pretty close to Takumi. Grants the +4 speed AoE buff, which is useful. And then effective against flying. His skill is actually really awesome. But 5-turn cooldown, it's just really rare. His speed's not high, 35. So again, he's most likely just going to be doing a single attack against most enemies. So his skill does a hell of a lot of damage. It attacks in a 5-1. I've seen it do upwards to 49 damage. So in one turn, I actually have a screenshot. He was doing 33 times 2 plus 49 damage. So that's well over 100 damage to a single unit. This was on a level 40 map, one of the training sessions, so it wasn't any low levels. But 5-turn cooldown. In 5 turns, especially in PvP, the match is going to be over. In PvE, I have seen it happen a couple times, because if he gets attacked, it'll lower the cooldown twice. And then also using a dancer. but just can't rely on that. But he does have some good stats with being able to do equal damage to as Takumi. Still an effective archer, so he's definitely a keep. Alright, so done with the archers. Let's go on to Felicia. So you want to keep a Felicia because there is a quest that it's possible that it might wind up popping back up. If you aren't on your lunatic quest, you want to keep her around, at least just to use her to complete that quest. She does have one of the highest resistance, I think, in the game. If she's not the highest, she might be the second or third highest. So she is really good at dealing with mages. And then she also gets this boost damage by 80% of her resistance. So she gets quite a bit of damage. It is on a 4-turn cooldown. That does hurt her a little bit, but then she also gets the +3 resistance. And then heals adjacent allies by 7 HP. She is an effective unit. So I definitely keep her. She is, I think, worth building. Someone that you would want to use just because of her high resistance. She is able to deal with mages very well. There are other units that are able to deal with those units, and we'll talk about them. So she's a keep. Jakob. So Jakob, I think, will be really effective in PvE, but less effective in PvP, just because he has this self-sustain. So most matches in PvP, everyone's getting one shot. It doesn't matter. This sustain doesn't matter as much. But PvE standpoint, every second turn restores that 10 HP. The same thing with Marth has that, and Lucina. And then also gets the bonus defense. So he's pretty tanky. You can see 6 resistance, 6 defense. He's pretty tanky as a rogue or an assassin unit. So I definitely keep him. I'm interested to see what kind of viability he has in the late game PvP content. I think he will have some good viability. Just restoring any kind of self-sustain, I think, is really important to the PvP aspect, especially when when you can face 5 heroes instead of like the 4 in PvP, where everyone's just doing so much damage that everyone dies in one shot anyways. So he's a keep. Alright, Kagero, she's a keep. Right now she's being considered S tier because of the current PvP status, mainly because no one uses anything except infantry in PvP. The only other units that they do use sometimes is Katria, Camilla, Cordelia, mainly because those units are really powerful, but they're countered by archers. Archers are all infantry. So Kagero is very good against infantry. She will one-shot almost every single person except maybe Robin. But she can also even do well against Robin's high defense. So she's definitely a keep. She's really good against dagger users, if there are any other dagger users. But she's just really good against infantry. Anything else, she's not going to do well against. But she's made for a single purpose, taking out those infantry. And because PvP is so heavily filled with infantry, she's shining very highly right now. Alright, Saizo. So what's really interesting about him is the inflict 10 damage. He can do 10 pure damage. So it doesn't matter how much defense resistance they have, this will always inflict 10 damage after he attacks. This effect cannot kill a unit. It can only bring it down to 1 life. So that is one of the disadvantages, but it does help you deal extra damage to those really tanky units that maybe in PvE you didn't bring a mage or a tome user into a battle, and you're facing one of those really tanky units that has high defense or a unit that has high resistance, and you're able to do this damage. So he is interesting because of that, and he has the AoE speed buff. He is pretty good, but I just think there's other dagger users, other assassins, rogues that I'd use in his place. He has a really high defense, but his resistance is really bad, and he is gonna just get one shot against most mages. Gaius, this guy is just no good. I just don't. This does not have a very high might. He only gets the bonus if he's below 50% life. He's not tanky enough to take any of those hits. His speed is really high. You can make a case. Oh well, he's gonna double attack, but if he gets hit, he's dead, and he's just not gonna get enough. He's just not gonna get tanky enough, and I don't think he'll ever really get to use this +7 attack. Yes, he does grant this defense resistance for one turn when he attacks. But as far as I know, this is going to end once your turn ends. Unless it stays, and that'll give him a little bit more tankiness, but even then, I don't think he's going to have enough innate tankiness to really take advantage of this. And again, you really want your ranged users to kill things very quickly. They don't make ranged users to tank. So you want to get in there, do your damage, and if that thing's not dead, you're probably going to die when it gets to attack. Matthew has the same poison strike. This is your starter rogue. AoE speed buff. Reciprocal aid could have some use, but again, with everyone dying so quickly, and even in the PvE content, a lot of things die in one shot. As soon as you get to around the 30 level, if you're using a 4-star or a 5-star, you can pretty much one-shot all of the enemies if you plan all your moves correctly. There's very few enemies that are tanky enough to survive 2 turns, and PvP is the same way. Everyone's just doing so much damage that a lot of times you're just not gonna have too much use for some of these skills. Again, I would say that he is better than Gaius, but I still think you'd be better off specializing with your rogues or your dagger users. Alright, so the healers, we'll talk about the healers individually, but overall I think healers are good for PvE content and don't have much of a place in PvP, again because everyone dies so quickly. I think the main issue is, I don't know if Nintendo intended for that to be that way, or if they simply didn't realize that everyone was going to be doing so much damage, and that defense was not mitigating and resistance was not mitigating that damage enough. If that was Nintendo's intentions, I get that, but it basically nullifies the use of healers. So when I do my power leveling guide, I will show you guys there is a use for healers, but that's mainly in a PvE standpoint. PvP, I just don't see healers getting much use. What I'd like to see is actually if instead of like a heal, if you healed someone who was at full life, whatever health would be healed would turn into like a shield or something where they block the next 10 it would reduce the damage the next attack they took by however much that was supposed to be healed. I think that could actually add some real value to healers, but right now really not going to see too much healing going on in PvP. Their might is very low, so they don't really do a lot of damage. Most of them have pretty good either defense or resistance. They have abysmal attack, low, well, it's kind of average life, pretty low speed. Again, for the most part, they all have this same skill where they imbue, which recovers their amount by 10, or they have a one that gives allies a buff. So a defense or a speed or heals everyone 10. So there's not really much to talk about between the healers. The debuff is useful, but again, you're just not really going to be using healers in a PvE or PvP standpoint. You're going to be using them PvE. So I'd probably send him home. This is, what is this? Azama. I'd probably send him home. I just don't think he's going to get too much use. There are other healers that I think are going to do better. Elise. So Elise is one of the other cavalry healers. I think cavalry healers are pretty good just because of their movement. Has mend, restore 10 health. Again, I think every healer has imbue. And then here we go with instead of healing more 10 health more, you get to give everyone +4 attack. That could actually be useful as like a long range buff, but someone has to be damaged, and you have to have healed twice or attack or have been attacked in order to really get this counter to go down, to really even use that. She gets to heal herself. Healers in this game are very bland. They feel very forced, like there wasn't enough thought put into any of the healers. So really there's not a whole lot to talk about. I think cavalry is good just because they have the extra movement. So Elise would be a keep. Sakura. This skill, from what I've seen, does not work properly. An AoE heal could have some uses. It's a little bit different. But again, everyone has imbue, and then they have this resistance buff. AoE defense buff is pretty good. But I think Elise would probably be your main healer. And really, they don't fill any different roles. Really, it's purely based on your buff. So Elise gives an attack buff. Attack buff is probably going to be your best bet, just because that way you're able to do more damage. So I don't think Sakura is really going to see too much use. Lissa, or Lissa maybe. She does have gravity, which I find to be able to shut down, at least in PvE, being able to shut down cavalry users has been useful. And again, she has the +4 attack, and then she self-sustains. She's also a keep. I'd say she's usable as a healer, again, just because this AoE attack buff. That's the buff you want to use. Serra is my main healer. She gives everyone +4 speed. Usually I just keep it on imbue, and then I also just use recover, just because that way I can just mass heal. So on one turn I can heal for 15, on the next turn I can heal for 25. If I'm using a dancer and I really need to be healing someone a whole lot, or while I'm power leveling, but outside of power leveling I don't use her at all. And then again, for power leveling, she has an always active, as long as you're adjacent, +4 attack buff. That's exactly what you want as a power level. Like, she is an amazing power leveling character. I use her every time I get a new hero that I'm leveling up. And like I said, I'll go over that. But outside of that, I don't really use her other than PvE. And like I said, mainly power leveling. Claine is a cavalry healer, imbue, and then she gets the +4 speed, and then she just gets bonus resistance. Elise is better. I wouldn't use Claine. Maria. So Maria has imbue, and her skill at least is different. So if her HP is above 5, she or above 1, she gets to survive a lethal attack with 1 HP remaining. This has a 5-turn cooldown. As long as I don't have her, so I don't know if it works like the first time it happens that this like she starts with her cooldown ready and then she gets to survive 1 extra turn and then it goes to 5 turns. I don't really know if that's how it works. She could see some use. If it doesn't, and it's 5 turns, you have to set up 5 turns before that happens. Definitely not going to see any use. Absolutely not going to see any use. And then she gets AoE resistance. I don't think is super great. Really, you're gonna want to attack here. And then Wyrs. This guy he's no good. He's got imbue, and then he gets the AoE heal all other allies 10. But that's at a 2-turn cooldown. I just don't think he's gonna see too much use. Serra is the better healer, and I'd say Elise is pretty close to being right there. I think if Maria's skill worked like I was saying, and she could maybe cast it on someone else, like it was an assist where you could make someone survive, 1 extra turn because they can't be killed that turn. That would be really powerful, but other than that, healers are very disappointing in this game. They do make great bus drivers and help power level, but other than that, I don't think they're going to see too much play. So that's going to be it. So what's going to be coming up next, we're going to do a power leveling guide just so you guys can see what the best strategies are in terms of power leveling. And then also we'll probably talk about some more PvP and kind of an overall tier list of kind of the maybe top 10 heroes, something like that. And then also I think we're going to start doing some in-depth heroes of specific heroes that I have that I can show you guys how they interact with other heroes when they're at level 40, just so you can see some interactions of the skills and how teams are put together, and then we can talk about team building with that. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the series. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about the series, and also let me know what you guys want to see next of what you guys want to see. So thanks guys, have a good night.